So, ladies and gentlemen, maybe we can start. Fine. Please take a seat and we can start. So, dear ladies and gentlemen, dear panelists, dear honorable members of the European Parliament, dear President, I changed the protocol because we have a President of the European Parliament who is so much engaged in this topic. But thank you first of all very much for joining this roundtable and for watching us online. I wish this roundtable could have taken place under better circumstances. Despite the ongoing war in Ukraine, we decided to keep this discussion to emphasize the critical role of women in our society. On International Women's Day, I think all our thoughts are with the brave Ukrainian women who defend their country, shelter their families, care for the wounded, and survive under such horrific conditions. Throughout history, women often have been excluded from conflict prevention and resolution efforts. And conflict prevention and resolution require women's participation and leadership. This is the best way to ensure peace and security. And we need to continue working for gender equality in all spheres of society. And as you know, this is a personal commitment of mine, and everyone of us here, dear ladies, this day is personally engaged. So during today's discussion, we'll learn about the impact different European initiatives supporting gender equality has had, and hear concrete ideas on further actions in the sphere of culture, innovation, science, and education. One of these initiatives was the social media campaign European Women for Future that we launched 2 years ago. It sought to celebrate and showcase the accomplishments of talented women in all different areas in my portfolio: research and innovation, education, culture, and sport. We featured women from all the European member states in this social campaign through short portraits for 1 year.
This meeting is being recorded.
They continue to be role models, inspiring other girls and women to follow similar paths. The Women for Future campaign ended amid the pandemic, a pandemic that was devastating for many and who, like most crises, affected women disproportionately. Today's discussion will touch upon this and draw lessons and good practices. We have the privilege to have among us some of the exceptional women featured in the campaign and one recipient of the European Prize for Women Innovators 2020. dear Fatima, the European Prize for Women Innovators is one of the first pioneers in research and innovation. And today, more than 30 great women innovators have been awarded. And it is time to take stock of this initiative. I want to discuss with you the impact this campaign and similar recognition initiatives can have on the professional lives of women. I also hope that your views on what works and does not work will support gender equality in our respective fields. So I'm really eager to learn how to inspire our young girls to follow their dreams. I'm particularly honored that today we have with us the President of the European Parliament, Roberta Mitzella. Thank you very much, Roberta, for your strong engagement to promote talented girls and women. Yes, today we are launching together a new initiative, this time dedicated to young girls and women, because I think that we all agree that young people are making a difference in their communities, for all of us as society, as community that is sharing values. And that's why young girls and women need our full support. They need to be heard. And this is why, as part of the European Year of Youth, we are happy to announce, together with the President of the European Parliament, the launch of a new social media campaign named She You Leads. What is our objective? We would like to popularize the experience and the messages from young girls and women across the European Union, sharing their work to achieve their goals and explain how the European programs that they have been part of have supported them. I hope that they will inspire many other young girls and will continue to be, as our panelists today, role models. So yes, our young women and girls can lead. They merit being put on the spotlight. Please help us to spread their messages by engaging in social media, in your contacts, in your exchanges. Now, dear President of the European Parliament, I know that this topic is very important for you, and I would like to invite you to share your message with us, and after we'll continue with the discussion with our panelists. Thank you.
Maria, thank you so much. Dear Commissioner Gabriel, thank you for organizing this event on this day. I can tell you it was the first invitation I had for Women's Day many months ago. For an event that would take place here. Your commitment and your leadership in this area is really something that this institution looks to with great admiration and also great pride, that you are a good friend, not only as an old member of this parliament, but also a commissioner who is very much an integral leader in this area. Before I start, as you also did, Maria, I must take this opportunity to commend the incredibly brave women of Ukraine. This has to be the thread that connects our events today as we celebrate. Can we even use the word celebrate today? Which is a day where we look at the successes, the achievements, but also where we are very far away from reaching our goals in Europe, both in our member states and in countries that border our member states that need our help today. Women who are testament to courage, strength and resilience, even in the most miserable and difficult of circumstances. In fact, in a few minutes, we will have in the plenary the possibility to hear from one of these women who will share her experiences from Ukraine before us. But being here, also celebrating and raising awareness about women's achievements in science and innovation, education, youth, culture and sport is extremely important. It is important because far too many women are made to feel inferior every day. And before I came here, I asked my two sisters, who are both academics and scientists into giving me a feel of what they experience through living in 2 different countries, working in different universities and research and science institutes, and what they feel. And this is something that they came back to me. In the STEM sector, women are still heavily underrepresented, and it has one of the highest gender pay gaps in Europe. When we talk about education, this is female-dominated, yes, but systematically undervalued. When we talk about sports, you have women who are stereotyped as being weak and vulnerable. In culture and arts, women are too often still portrayed as muses for male audiences. And whether in any job where competent and ambitious women are faced with thick glass ceilings at every opportunity to rise in their professional hierarchy. So I think days like this are also used to make sure that we send the strongest of message that we need to empower women to sit at the rightful seat at the table, not just any seat, at the rightful seat at the table. And this is where the European Parliament is supporting with its policies and its concrete initiatives, welcoming initiatives, not only such as the one today, but also those which promote women's accomplishments in science and innovation and education, youth, culture and sport, starting with the EU Women for Future and the new Maria Shiu leads campaigns, but also the Commission's initiative establishing the EU Prize for Women Innovators, which is awarded every year to European women who have founded a successful company and brought an innovation to the market. These women are ultimately role models for every hesitant girl wanting to pursue a career in a field that still lacks too many female representatives. This European Parliament has also long been calling for the removal of all socio-cultural, psychological, biological and educational barriers that limit women from taking up careers in male-dominated industries without compromising women's freedoms to take and make decisions. First of all, we must focus on female empowerment and eliminating gender biases through education. But these are not enough. They must be coupled with adequate incentives, support mechanisms, and targeted measures for women to enter, but then also professionally advance in these sectors. This is why this Parliament has always stood behind gender mainstreaming in the EU budget, targeted measures to end gender biases and institutional arrangements which would allow women to address family life while still maintaining a career. And once entering these industries, we need to make sure that no woman becomes yet another statistic in the gender pay gap. This is why this House also stands behind the swift adoption of the Pay Transparency Directive, and we need to ensure that the principle of equal pay for equal work between women and men is truly applied. Because in Europe, your salary should never be conditioned by your gender. The Parliament has also long called for the unblocking of the Women on Boards Directive, which will help decrease gender gaps in upper-level positions. It's been 10 years without any movement in this proposal, and we simply cannot afford any more delays. I am also proud that the European Parliament has the issues of gender equality and women's rights high on its agenda, but not only on the 8th of March, but all throughout the year. I say this every year, that I wish we did not have to wait for the 8th of March to talk about this day. But I also wish that this day is not only talking about incentives, as I just mentioned, for women, without also, when talking about career, private life choices, also talking about the other parts of the family. This is also something that I think should be important in order for it to become a mainstream subject that we discuss every day. So my promise to you on International Women's Day is that this House will not rest until we have achieved a Europe of equal opportunities for everyone. And I thank you I wish you a very fruitful discussion, which I will continue to follow while I'm in and out of these meetings. But our possibility of organizing meetings in this hybrid way means that we can do that, multitask between one meeting and another. But really, let's not wait until we meet again on the 8th of March again before we talk about these discussions and these ways that we can improve not only this House, the women that work in this House, everybody who works in this House, but every young person in Europe looking to us for leadership. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much, President, for your strong messages. And as you said, for us, the ambition is not only to talk about all this issue 8th of March, but to talk the entire year. And that's why one of the objectives of the campaign She You Lead is to give visibility to inspiring, talented young girls and women all over Europe every single week during the entire year. So you mentioned one of the most important topics, that was girls in STEM. And that's why I propose now to immediately start the discussion, the most important part of this meeting with our panelists. And my first question is going to Michaela. Dear Michaela, you are a PhD student and researcher in the field of plasma astrophysics. I hope that I spell well. Passionate about attracting girls into STEM subject. And even you have a star named after you, thanks to your work. So,
it's a planet, yeah.
My question is, what did the EU for Women, European Women for Future campaign mean to you, and what was your experience during the pandemic? How did it affect your own motivation and work?
Actually, the campaign was a really great tool for me because I was already into the topics of diversity, equality, etc. also before. But thanks to the campaign, of course, it brings a certain amount of visibility, etc. And for example, as one of the follow-up events after the campaign was the European Research and Innovation Days, which happened last summer, where I was invited to talk as a panelist, which was amazing. And for me, in a way, I was representing my age group in STEM as a woman. And I do take this tasks responsibly, so to represent an age group, I really wanted to make sure that I know what I'm talking about. So I started to talk about many more women in my age group, in my research field, in other countries as well. And that way you can really, in a way, broaden your horizon and see, okay, these are my opinions, my experiences, these are the experiences of somebody else. This is where they match, this is where they don't. And it also really helps me to form my opinion. And also after the event, when I brought up a couple of points, I still got a couple of messages from the audience telling me about their own experiences, and then that propels you forward to continue to give more lectures, more workshops, and get even more involved. So for me, this is a great tool to really grow when it comes to activism in this area.
And what would you like to see as follow-up?
This direction, I think, is already pretty good. So again, as I keep meeting new people and exchanging networks, contacts, etc., I can get more and more involved. For example, now I got involved with Zonta, the local community for supporting women. And of course, also in the topic of motivating young women and in general young people to join STEM.
Thank you very much for raising again the importance of motivating other young girls and keeping the network and the exchanges. It's key. So now I would like to turn to Maria. Dear Maria, 2 years ago, you received the European Prize for Women Innovators. This is one of the measures of the European Innovation Council to support women innovators. Another new initiative is the Women Tech European program that just last week awarded 75,000 euros along with mentoring and training support to 50 women-led startups. And these are two concrete actions, how we can support women innovators so that the current state of play, where only 15% of startups are founded or co-founded by women. So my question, Maria, is how has this European support impacted the company you run? And what else do we have to do if we want Europe to be the continent with the most women-led startups?
Thank you, Maria. It's actually very difficult to say how it has impacted, because it impacted in so many different ways that it's really hard to describe. From the technological point of view, it put us in the map because we do computational enzyme engineering, which is something that is very difficult to explain. And to have been, let's say, evaluated by the Commission and the stamp of quality, it shows that we are doing something that is important and that will help a more sustainable world, because we are basically developing green chemistry. It has helped with funding, of course, because when you're doing deep tech, normally investors want results very quickly, and you need a lot of investment for a long time, so the European Commission has also supported there. But it also helped with confidence and visibility for myself. So you mentioned activities that are important. A program that's ongoing right now is the Women Leadership Program, which offers coaches and mentors. And often when you talk about entrepreneurship and you talk about how it's important to improve hard skills, but the confidence, the day-to-day, the balance between work and life, all of these points, they're so difficult, and I'm guessing especially for women, because the burden of family is still very much on women. I'm fortunate, I don't have children, so it's easier for me, but I can't imagine what it's like to lead a company, a startup, and have a family, and don't have the support of someone that has passed by that experience previously saying, you need to stop. Work is important, but you also need to dedicate time to your family. Now, what can still be done? I think you're doing a wonderful job, but if I could say something, and you know, I normally like to say something, maybe start younger. So when I received the prize, I was already over 40, and it has, of course, impacted my career enormously. But how about young ladies that are finishing their PhDs and have a really nice idea for development and having, because still in STEM you don't have enough education and leadership and culture and building a company. I would just suggest to start earlier, because if these women have the support of the European Commission from early stages, I think it will help them enormously, even if just in their confidence. And I think that's really important.
Thank you very much, Maria. Definitely, I fully agree that we should start and help girls and women to start younger. That's why at the end of this panel there will be a good positive news for the Women Innovators Prize. So with my team, we are paying attention to this, and that's why this You Lead campaign again is turned to young girls and women. Now I would like to turn to Edilia. So cultural and creative sector. You are the director of the European platform with 95 members in 25 countries, supporting innovation and education in opera and ballet with the aim to attract new and young audiences. My question first to you, Edilia, is looking back at the last 2 years, are there any positive lessons to draw from a shift to a digital setting on artistic creativity or reaching audiences? And do you have any concrete recommendation for the Creative Europe program? Here you have the right people for that. In the room we have with us Sabine Verheyen. Thank you very much. That's the chair of CULT committee. You know that it's good that we now managed to increase the budget with 60%, but of course we are always looking for what we can do better. So Edilia, it's up to you.
Thank you so very much. It's a great honor to join the conversation this morning here with all of you. It is, for us, looking back at what happened over the last 2 years, very, very inspiring to see that even though we were all challenged by all the difficulties that we were facing through the pandemic, whatever happens can never intimidate or can never stop creative minds to continue creating and inspiring. And sometimes crisis can also be very often a source of inspiration, of finding new ways, of reinventing oneself, the way of working, the way of collaborating. And when looking at all the opera houses in our network over the last 2 years and the artists, they have been so inspiring in showing how you can continue to push forward and never lose hope and find new ways to, for instance, reach out to audiences. The streamings have increased drastically over the last 2 years with Opera Vision, or also organizations like the Paris Opera that suddenly, within no time, made their work available to audiences who were all, stuck at home and hungry for inspiration and artistic ideas. Another element was there was this development of a lot of sensitivity towards people with special needs in this time. So, for instance, the elderly. There were also comparisons between the tech industry and artistic creators who produced, for instance, virtual reality experiences for people who could not leave their places, for instance, in rest homes, to experience an artistic afternoon thanks to digital technology, to be immersed in a beautiful surrounding of ideas. Another thing was also because schools were, of course, closed in this time, and many parents had the challenge of, doing homeschooling and looking after the children, being able to have access to education content. And many cultural organizations actually made a lot of education content available for children in this context, which was also very uplifting and a change of setting in learning about culture at home. And another element that's very important to say is that from the audience point of view, the way opera houses were able to suddenly make shifts in decision-making and new budget allocation, or also the way of processing projects. Things just worked out much more fluidly. It brought us more closer together. Collaborations were facilitated, and especially when you're talking about major opera companies who are working on creating new work for the stage that takes up to 2 years to actually be realized, how do you continue preparing something for the future? And there's where digital technology came in to say, how do we, for instance, create a virtual twin of the stage so that teams can continue, rehearsing and pulling things together. And we firmly believe that in the future, there are going to be a lot of solutions that were developed in these last 2 years that will help going forward and also exist as hybrid models. But of course, we're all longing, as the performing arts is something that is to be experienced live, the emotionality of it, this shared moment, and we cannot wait. And we are already welcoming back audiences to our venues, but to do so even more in the future.
Thank you very much, Cecilia. Yes, I fully agree. New technologies are an opportunity, but because we have creativity, and we need to preserve this. I'm sure that there will be some follow-up questions after this intervention. I would like to preserve the time for this discussion with the members of the European Parliament. Now I will turn to Anna. Dear Anna, you are an established research professor in mathematics and informatics with many years of experience combining teaching, research, and managing obligations as you lead a laboratory of high-performance computing in Sofia. In academia, we have almost reached gender parity at PhD graduate level in Europe. However, when looking at the representation of women doctoral graduates in specific fields of study, such as information and communication technologies, the share is much lower, only 21%. And in the European Union today, women make up less than 23% of all ICT students, and they make up only 17% of the active ICT workforce. And yes, here Bulgaria has among the highest proportion of female ICT specialists, and this is a positive trend. But now the question, dear Anna, is, could you share with us your efforts to increase gender balance and attract and have women into your field?
Thank you, Maria. It is a great pleasure to be together, thanks to the technology which was developed recently and very heavily used for good. First, I would like to congratulate the organizer of this meeting that they were not stopped by this really terrifying situation at the moment. So we need to show that women are strong enough to go and to work for the future, because without future, there is nothing left for the earth. So gender balance in physics, because I'm professor in theoretical physics and mathematics, is completely difficult to be maintained. And the reason, you mentioned correctly that we have enough girls at in the freshman level, first and the second year at the university. And then we see that master's and PhD level, the number is lower and lower. And finally, for the faculty, for the people working at the university, we have less. And engineering, it is even worse than it is in academia. So how to keep balance? First of all, my effort all my life was to help ladies and young girls understand that if they love what they do, there is no force to stop them. This is the very first thing which I try to encourage them, that the nature is beautiful, all languages, including mathematics, to penetrate into the hidden phenomena in nature are available to the people, and the gender is not important for understanding the nature. It is important to follow your personal dream and to be sustainable. For people like me, the effort is really to not only to encourage ladies, but to generate a specific atmosphere at the university. I have been altogether, I count them yesterday, in 16 different universities all over the world, and I found that it is important to have the atmosphere which helps developing this specific culture. Balance is important not only in words. Gender balance is important for specific opening our eyes. I would like to stop here because it is a long story, but I would like really to express my gratitude to the European Commission because they funded about 15 years ago European Platform of Women Scientists, which helped very much, very, very much, young ladies at that time to be leaders now. So I congratulate Maria Gabriel for this. At that time, she was young lady in the group of gender balance at the European Parliament. And I think that this is the way we should be sustainable in our efforts. We cannot stop. We should teach the others, the new generation, that following our dreams is the only driving force.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Anna, for your strong messages. Yes, we should, and we have to be sustainable in our efforts. I think that we send another very strong message with the New Horizon Europe program when we talk about research and innovation, because you know that now that's an eligibility criterion in the new program to have a gender equality plan. We are all looking now for the implementation, because always intentions are good, but the most important thing is what's about the follow-up. Here, I would like now to ask every one of our 4 panelists in one sentence to tell us what is your advice for young girls to pursue a career in your respective fields. Michaela.
I would say it's very simple. Don't be afraid. And if you need help, just find somebody to ask and ask them.
Thank you, Michaela. Idilia.
Never give up.
Fine.
Tough question. I would say the same. Never give up, look for help, and follow your dreams.
Excellent.
It's the same words.
Excellent. Anna?
Please ask the people to be with you, find good friends, and really never give up.
Thank you very much. Well, very strong. Never give up. Ask for help. You will find it. Now, I would like really to give the opportunity to the members of the European Parliament to ask questions to our panelists. Please present yourself and ask your question. Sabine Verheyen, Chair of Cult Committee.
Thank you very much. I would like to raise a question, as expected, to the culture and creative sectors. You were talking about innovation and how important it is, especially also for women, to step towards the new technologies also in culture and creative sector. What we experienced during the COVID-19 crisis was that especially the typical jobs for women in the culture and creative sector were very often earlier cancelled because it were the sewers, it were the hairdressers, those who make the mask, especially in theaters, because you didn't have the performances. What do you think is important when young women, when young girls have the idea to go into the creative sector? I very often made the experience that they are fearing the new technologies more than perhaps sometimes boys or others. But you need them today if you want really to have success in the sector. You have to be more adapted also to new technologies. What do you think is necessary to bring young creative minds, especially women, also towards the new technologies?
Thank you very much for the question. It's a very fair point that you raise. I firmly believe that when you have a very strong project that can inspire people, you can lead people towards something, to embrace something openly. Like I see it in our competition, where it's the world's largest competition for opera and ballet. The projects that we receive are ideas and concepts that will only be realized in 2 years' time. And we address young people and young professionals to already start understanding the scope of the project, to accompany it. And we've seen that when you speak to people at a very early stage, you can take them on this journey and you can accompany them in engaging with the project, learning about it, and also introduce them maybe to professionals who can give them insight that will then be mentors over the long run. And I deeply believe it's about dialogue and an intergenerational dialogue, and being exposed and giving the projects that can inspire any gender to get involved with new technology, to give them that platform.
Thank you. Please present yourself and ask.
Thank you very much. Evelyn Regner, Vice President of the European Parliament and former Chair of the Women's Affairs and Gender Equality Committee. My question goes to all of you. Working time. We have facts and figures that show that the number of women are really rising in all those STEM professions, and also in these areas where normally women are really not so much present, when there are less let us work around the clock working hours exist. And I'm referring especially to women who gave birth to children and still are in top positions. Is it something you share in your surrounding? Because we see more and more that more women are going up, but from the moment on they're giving birth, they're more interested in having maybe not working hours that are going more or less around the clock. And so comparing the sectors, we see architects are the worst because they're also doing the project and working around the clock. Or if you're working for McKinsey & Co., while pharmaceutics and also in the doctor sector, from the moment on, you are just have the chance to be in a more foreseeable working time scheme. The situation changes and women are also in the top position. So do you share that? Second question, women in finance. Running a startup is, fantastic ideas coming from women, but still the percentage of those who are giving, for example, the credit in a bank, majority men. So going for quota also in finance is something also helping women in order to be more open-minded and taking on board the great ideas you do have. Do you share that?
Thank you for the question. It's an excellent one. I think it's fundamental that we are flexible in our hours, and we see this in our company. So we're a small company. We're 19 people, but we're over 50% women, which in deep tech is not so common. And we have several women that had children in the last years. And what I find is that if you are flexible, and some women will be answering emails at 6 o'clock in the morning because that's the hour they are actually feeding their baby and they can take a look at their email. If you are flexible, women most likely will want to continue working and will want to continue having all the responsibility they had before and afterwards. So I think the main thing is to allow flexibility, and I believe in most companies that is possible, because women, it's not always the case, but the women that I have seen, which are women that really want to succeed also in their careers, they just want some flexibility to be able to manage their hours, and they will continue working, probably even better because they can manage multitasking, and they're really good at that. So my experience is allow people to work at the hours they need and they can. And in terms of funding, you're absolutely right. For women, it's still difficult to raise funding, and the numbers are there. It's not just an opinion. I think the fact that we see more and more women entering in venture capital and systematically saying we want a certain number in the board of directors, we want companies led by women, and the European Commission is also facilitating this work by making sure that there are enough startups that are actually funded and led by women. I think things will change, but I don't think that is enough. So I don't know what the answer is, but it seems to me unreal that the numbers show that women-led companies are usually more successful and still they get less money.
Thank you. Michaela?
I probably will not even start with the problem of having a baby as a young researcher, because that's almost an impossibility, unfortunately. But I do have a colleague who is doing a PhD, and she managed to have a baby during her PhD, so that's one of the longer-term contracts, so that's a bit more financial stability. And from what I've seen, she's also very keen to keep working very, very hard. The problem is that research work, depending on what you do exactly, sometimes you really need to focus. Reading a paper that is very difficult to read sometimes, if you are sleep deprived because of a newborn, it can be very difficult. It's maybe easier sometimes to make graphs or do some programming later. But if you really need to focus, this can be very, very difficult with a baby. At the same time, you have additional pressure because you're in a way taking a break from academia, which is again very, very difficult. So that in addition to having a baby and being tired can be a hard situation. And it's very demotivating to many girls actually in STEM. So that's from my side.
Thank you.
Maybe just to add a general point on this, I think it's a general question about where is leadership going in the future. And I think unrelated to gender, there's always this question about, do you really care for your team members? Do you really care for who is working together with you to reach a certain outcome and have an impact together? And what translates from that actual interest and care will be the willingness to offer flexibility, the understanding. And if you know that people are highly motivated and want to commit to something, they will go out of their way to do that alongside the entire team. And it's not a question about imposing things. And I think no matter if it's a male or female leader, it's all about this mindset of embracing the fact that we're all human and that we all have things in our personal lives that can maybe cause our mind time to be maybe shifting to something else. But it's about being open to that, being flexible, and actually valuing the dedication of everyone. And that will come through.
Thank you. Now I would like really
May I say something?
Yes, please, Anna. Yeah. And after we have four members of the European Parliament that would like to intervene, I will propose that everyone is asking questions and the panelists will answer. Yes, dear Anna, yes.
Yeah, my comment is that listening to you, I hear that you have young ladies excluded completely the males in your personal life. And that's something which opens another study and another research, that ladies try to exclude males. I have 2 sons and 3 grandsons, so I don't have girls around me. So my question to you is, are you prepared to teach your friends, your colleagues, that gender balance is actually generated by ladies as well?
Thank you. Please, now I would like really to propose to have all the questions and after to invite our panelists to answer. Please present yourself and ask your question.
Thank you. Maria Manuel Marques, I'm MEP in different commission from too. And my question is about emotional education. Yesterday, I was in a debate with a remarkable neuroscientist, a Portuguese one, and she said, and it was impressive to me, that we are not investing in emotional education to our girls and to our boys, and this is very important in order to fighting against gender inequality and special to prevent gender violence. What do you think about this proposal? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Not an easy question. Please, Maria.
Thank you very much. Maria Graça Carvalho, MEP from Portugal. Along of my career, I have always pushing in different functions. I have always tried to do my best to attract women for science. And when I had responsibility for research and innovation and higher education in Portugal, I pressed a lot for policies that attract more women. Actually, it's a policy that has been present in all the governments, socialist and social democrat governments. We always have this policy, and we have been very successful. And one of the secrets is to, as Maria Fatima said, is to start young. So we have a program for very young girls. And we have been very successful in bio, in physics, mathematics, but not in ICT. ICT is still a problem in Portugal. So is my question probably to Anna, how can we attract more young girls to ICT? The second point that we are not successful is on going up in the career. So we have very good indicators for women in science, but not good indicators in full professors, rectors, directors of research. So there is a very strong glass ceiling in STEM in Portugal, and I think that is general, and this relates what you have been saying after maternity or taking care of your older parents, things get much more difficult. So if you can also give some advice on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please, Francis.
Thank you. Frances Fitzgerald. I'm MEP for Dublin, and I've also been, I'm the coordinator for the EPP group on the FAM committee. So thank you all very much for your presentations, and congratulations, Maria, on what you're doing. I think it's a really good news story when we look at female entrepreneurships and innovation. We just need more of you. We need a greater critical mass, but I think the initiatives we've seen it in Ireland have really made a difference to startups. We've seen how important, for example, having role models is and support services and so on. That's really been the difference in the success we've had in Ireland. We've a 39% pension pay gap. We have the numbers of young girls going down in many places in relation to STEM. Quite a serious issues in some member states. As Maria has said, the decision-making, the Women on Boards Directive should make a difference in this area. We should also be looking for 40% minimum representation of women on all of the boards in the areas of relevance to the areas that you all work in. But, you know, we have a very serious issue on our hands in terms of ICT, in terms of AI, in terms of the role models that are not available in those areas. There are experts, there are exceptions, but it's not a critical mass yet. And my question really is about the accelerated action that is needed in our member states to deal with this. Because women are losing out so much. The economy is losing out by trillions in the EU if we dealt with gender equality properly. Not just in this area, but overall, our GDP by 2050 would be improved by trillions. Well stated and well-known facts. So I think we need accelerated action. What, in your view, would be the kind of initiative you'd like to see, whether it's in our education system or wherever, in member states? What new initiative in this area could begin to break the impasse? Because I do see it as an impasse, despite the progress. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark.
Thank you, Mrs. Commissioner. Mark Tarabella, MEP from Belgium, SND Group, and for 10 years I was member of the Women's Rights and Gender Equality in this Parliament, and 2 times rapporteur on the annual report 2010, Astrid Luning as shadow rapporteur, and 2015, Maria Gabrielle as shadow rapporteur. Much easy with you to have a common agreement, but my question is, and you are right to target girls, because one of the key issues is the gender stereotype. And stereotype begin not only in the school, it's at each level, in the sports, in some sphere. And I think maybe it's also necessary to target boys, because who are victims of stereotype? Girls, women. Who are the author? Sometimes some girls auto stereotype, but the majority of the stereotypes come from men. And I think that's the education, of course. Why targeting the education? Because it's the unique place where all young people or children are obliged to go. And is there a program in some country, which is a competence of a member state? Is there, for example, a good practice of program in some countries to fight against the stereotype very early in the life?
Thank you very much. Someone else is asked. Mr. Eller.
My name is Christian Niel. I'm 58, and I practically listen to the cracking ice under my feet. My question is in practical terms. I mean, the gender equality discussion, and I've been rapporteur for the research programs now for the third time, so practically over 2 decades. And if you see the amount of statistics we had been creating by that, in the last program we had been mentioning it 128 times. But the interesting thing is, I mean, we're a little bit in a liar's poker. So we impose statistics on the participants of the programs. They deliver that. I know that from both sides. I've been the CEO of a big biotechnology company, heavily subsidized by European means. So we create that statistic, but what is actually happening? And my question would be, first of all, and now I hear the ice cracking, isn't it a little bit of a problem that we are stressing permanently this gender equality ethical and moral question and not refer more to the demographics and the economics? So if you're asking just for statistics, there is a need in academia. We're losing practically half of biotechnology engineers within the first 7 years, them being in the profession, because they can't combine family life and research and innovation. And demographically, it's the only answer at hand we have, because we're losing so many qualified academics, but also in skilled professions, to that dilemma that the question of this gender, moral, ethical thing answered by statistics hadn't helped. So isn't it that we would have to ask publicly, at least publicly financed institutions and programs, that they really have a demographic strategy, because they do know that skilled work is so under pressure because we don't have it anymore, that demographically the only answer is to keep women academics and skilled women in jobs, because that is the potential at hand. And secondly, in terms of the access to finance, I mean, we have a 2-dimensional problem. We don't argument in economic ways. We see out of the microcredits that in a credit portfolio of a bank or a VC capital, the risk to lend money to women compared to lend money to men is lower. But interestingly, it doesn't reflect their portfolios. But we are still, yet again, asking for the statistics, but not really for the economics. So isn't it that if we, for example, in the EIC fund allocate money, and we know by statistic it's better to give it to women than to men, although I don't want to refer then to the reversed stereotypes, but we develop more of an economic discussion and not this statistic discussion, because we could force the EIC simply to say if the risk portfolio looks like that, then we want to see that represented. Otherwise, we are not granting the money to a risk donating facility like that. So what I mean is, do we analyze access to finance and the question of skilled labor in the right way? Because we are stressing all this moral dimension, and don't get me wrong, I think it's an ethical dimension. But we create statistics, but we don't create concrete measures. And my question would be to you, that I don't be the stereotype of the lecturing man, what had been in your professional life been somehow something which helped you? Because I think that is really the question, whether statistics will help us or concrete measures. And I could just give you one example. If we found a biotechnology center, we're asking for the statistics, but we can't find a kindergarten. I had been the most important measure I'd been doing in my time as a CEO, and I wouldn't know then, was that we had a kindergarten which was open from 7 to 10 o'clock in the evening. Not that I want women and men, by the way, to let their children till 10 at the kindergarten, but we created a facility. But the problem is that these instruments usually linked to the public sector, not reflecting the realities at a university or in a company. And for example, couldn't we envisage that we practically co-fund, and it's potentially possible that part of an innovation grant we give is used for, let's say, to combine work and family life. I think as long as we're not doing that, we end up permanently with statistics. Thank you.
And the last question after I would ask really to have short answers. Please, Sveti.
Thanks, Maria. Thanks for having us here, and happy holidays to everyone. I'll be very brief. I'm coming from Bulgaria, representing S&D, member of the European Parliament. Just gonna give one number. Like in Bulgaria, the top managerial position, about 49% of them is held by women. I think it's a case study example because it is possible. At the same time, at European level, we have like only 15% of the startups founded by women. So there is a massive problem. I think ideally try to make a very, very meaningful comment in terms of not putting that such of a strong emphasis when we're speaking about leadership skills, women and men. And my question here is, that's why I started with the example, like don't accept it as a challenge, but the question, the answer of the question would help us see where are actually the problems which we can resolve here. What are the specific challenges you faced, or what did you have to give up in your career path, which is different for what your men counterparties had to give up?
Thank you very much. So now we can start with Maria.
Thank you so much. All the questions are extremely important. I'm going to try to summarize a little bit of the different questions. I think education definitely needs to start early, and it needs to be for men and women, because you're absolutely right, Mark. It's not just about educating the women and helping the women, but it's also educating the men to try to understand the differences. If we look at the audience today, we were mostly women. I think this represents the typical problem, which is when we're talking about gender equality, the table is normally majority women, and I think this is something we really need to change. Quotas, which is a word I hate, I think work. I don't like them, but if we want to accelerate the change, I believe there won't be another chance. What has worked for me? The people that have supported me. So quotas related with the mentor that I'm working with today. He also participated in a series of events trying to achieve gender equality in his company already some years ago, and he also found that only with quotas it could happen. Why is this? Because we tend to hire like, and if the people that are making decisions are men tend to hire men, and we need to change that to be able to actually change the system. And then what has really, really helped me to listen to other people that share the same problem. So Maria, I think, mentioned emotional education. I think this also needs to start from an early age.
Thank you. Michael?
Yes, I will also try to be very brief. Maybe I would summarize many of the questions. Of course, education has to start young, but I think if we do have more women in science at the higher positions, in professorships, if we see senior scientists that are female, this is already going to have such a strong impact on young girls. We will not have to just impose it on them in form of Barbies, but they will actually see it everywhere around. And I think really here, at least from my perspective as a young researcher, the entire issue stems in how to keep the females in academia, in sciences, after they maybe get their PhDs or master's degrees. And I think here really we have to look at job precarity, because we are so much more biologically constrained compared to men. If I want to have children when I'm 33, to be finished with 2 children, say in 35, there's no way I'll find a job that is permanent in academia in 3 years after I finish my PhD. You're expected to fly around the world, have these one-year contracts. This is simply not going to work. So this is completely family unfriendly, the way academia works right now. And also for me, this is probably might be the reason I will leave academia in 3 or 4 years. And if we can somehow battle this, and this will not only help men, this will in general improve quality of academia. This will also help men and everybody else in academia. If we can guarantee more security for young people, they won't have to run around the world, but find something that works for them for longer than 1 or 2 years. We can keep them there longer and show them that it's really possible, and they will not have to quit. And as for the emotional security, that's kind of my other tip that I found to be very, very important and very, very helpful. We actually also have that in Slovakia now, starting a network where women in IT actually have a forum where they can share their struggles. And if somebody does something or encounters some hardship, they can just exchange their advice. And this is so helpful. In aerospace engineering, which I studied, I had 2 classmates in aerodynamics out of 50, 2 women classmates. And it's just so difficult then to be able to relate to each other because we have completely different issues. So if you do have a support network, maybe international, maybe on a community level like university, where you can maybe talk to older girls or older women and share information, I think this is the kind of emotional education that we really need to support young women, to make them stay there longer, in addition to maybe solving at least partly the job precarity. Thank you.
Thank you, Michaela. Idilia. I can just build on what has been said, maybe starting with the point, what gets you going and what keeps you going and what makes you get up when things get difficult. There are pillars that you have and that you build on that are the basis of your strength and motivation. In my case, it's family, and having the incredible luck and opportunity to be surrounded by people that have inspired me. And this is an intergenerational experience, because I've had the great honor to work over the last 10 years now with extremely inspiring mentors who they themselves trailblazed things in their own areas of work, and who have been very inspiring and encouraging to pass on their experience, their advice in a very helpful way, and to tell you also honestly what their thoughts are. And this can be in a professional but also in a personal environment. And having that ecosystem of bienveillance, as you say in French, is extremely helpful in anything that you do. And I think that's something that's fundamental for any human being, regardless of gender, to be encouraged and to be supported. And initiatives like, for instance, Fedora would not exist if we didn't have support from people who believe in the fact that, for instance, culture makes a difference, can spark change, and can give hope. And that's why I actually just wanted to say again, thank you so much to Creative Europe, who supported now us again for the second time, and who's helping us to scale the activities we've been building over the last years to go forward. And thank you also to you for this wonderful trust. And I have a very concrete recommendation for Creative Europe in the future, touching on the point of emotional education that was said, because basically the message is everything has to start young. The way you form a mindset, the way you encourage people, and how you create an environment that allows that to strive. And I think Creative Europe and all the other programs that you're overseeing, you have such an incredible panel of interesting projects that are making a difference. And I think there is so much potential in bundling that impact and measuring how that is impacting our society. And I think it could be extremely interesting, for instance, in the cultural world, between the platforms that you support, to create a cultural impact bond that is also backed by the private sector, to allow us to access more funding that could get private investors involved, and a dialogue going also with local entities, public entities, also on a European and national level. And again, creating this community around projects that are already existing, but merging the impact and offering that to any young people all over Europe, because you can change the mentality, what you mentioned, at a young age, and cultural organizations have the assets to do that. And so that would be my recommendation.
Thank you, Delia. Anna. Micro.
Is it okay now? Yeah. At least it is green at my side. Answering the question about girls and women in ICT made me thinking about very specific action, which is very important. You see, when we compare the skills of girls and boys, we do it on the basis of our old understanding what is excellent. Now, excellence is different thing. I mean, when I compare my youth, we were the same. I mean, it was considered that in mathematics and physics, ladies and girls and boys should have the same achievements. Now, after so many years working with people, I found that one of the errors we repeat is that we did not change the way we focus on girls and boys. So in order to preserve in ICT ladies, we need to invent different hackathons, as we called it. So this is something not just to count the statistics, as you said. The statistics gives us the impression that we are doing something wrong. So first recommendation is to find the specific skills which are more important to be found in girls and in boys, and to separate the tasks and expectations. When you find very interesting problems for girls, they are there and they try to stay and to solve and to develop, and they become software companies leaders or whatever. Another thing which I found in comparing the motivation is that we need to start very early, not only with education in a specific science, but education how to live in a family. As I mentioned, boys should know that they should share the duties in the family, not only to know it, but to practice it. Then they become the very first friends of a lady to develop her career. I was happy with my husband and my mother. Both of them support me in the very beginning when I needed it very much. And the kindergartens, they are badly needed. So if there are some funding for specific gardens for kids, like in VMware, for instance, which is now Dell company, they have this practice to give to their employees opportunity to work and to take care of their kids at the premises. So there are several recommendations which should not be only on paper, but they should be followed somehow. So if I see next year a call for opening a specific kindergarten, I shall run together with the girls and boys from my university to work on such a project. So these are important things. And one specific answer to one of the comments about finding a job after returning from your maternity leave. The problem usually is that most of the places work on project-based funding. This is something which we discussed at the Commission years ago, that probably the project should be, research projects should be specifically designed in order to let young women to enter, to live for a while without having specific penalty for delay of the project because of this. You see, it is complicated, I know, but this could be done. Specific funding for research projects. This is my final recommendation.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Anna. Thank you, Dilia. Thank you, Michaela. Thank you, Maria. I think that we greatly appreciated your contributions today. And on my side, I would like really to wrap up as conclusion some of the main messages. I would like first, Dilia, to say thank you very much because you raised the importance of girls and women and the creativity in cultural sector. Just to share with you that today with all our ministers of culture, we published a declaration to express our solidarity with Ukraine, with the artists there, and to affirm a strong message for the protection of our cultural heritage. But I would like really here, Idilia, to say, despite the challenges, I would like to keep your positive message on all the new opportunities resulting from this crisis. I take your concrete recommendation for Creative Europe program, and I must say that yes, cultural and creative sectors are the soul of European society, and I very much hope that with Creative Europe program, with the new cluster on culture in Horizon Europe, with the new community of innovation and communication, with the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, we definitely will be much more able to support adequately the creativity and culture in Europe. I would like to intervene on the question of how to have more women on top positions in academics, because you know that indeed in the European Union, women account for only 1/4 of top academic positions. We have to do more to attract women. I don't like the word retain. Our duty is to offer them tools and instruments and support, and that is up to them to have the choice. We are not here to retain someone, but we can give, we can inspire, give wish, and we can inspire others to do it and to stay in Europe. So I think that here, already I talk about the institutional change within the new Horizon Europe, but thank you very much, Mr. Heller, for your suggestion. I fully agree that we should change somehow our approach and insist on the economic and demographic aspect. Of course, the mental, emotional, it's important, but we can have more coherent approach, taking into account all these strong arguments that maybe will push us to have more people on board, and that's another question. So I already talked about the Horizon Europe and the gender equality plans. Just to tell you that we have more than 5,400 organizations that they already have this plan. Of course, the most important it will be the implementation. Another important issue too, and that was not mentioned during the discussion, we need really to look to our experts that evaluate the proposals. And that's why this year we are focusing on increasing the diversity in our pool of experts by concentrating on women experts in fields such as artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, green technologies, and that's something that we need to continue. Thank you very much, Maria, for mentioning and raising again the importance on the funding for women-led companies. I must tell you that for me it's something really important because, first of all, generally speaking, less than 5% of the available venture capital funding goes to women-led companies, but 21, despite that was a very good idea for startups, men-led startups, that was a horrible year for venture capital for women-led companies. In 2020, that was only 2% of all venture capital. In 21, it's only 1%, even decreased. So we need definitely, and that will be addressed in our innovation agenda. You know that the last 1 year, together with my team, we are working on addressing this issue. And for me, it's important here to mobilize all the different existing tools, because on one side, yes, I mentioned Women Tech EU initiative. It's great. It's not only funding for companies, it's mentoring, and you all raise the importance of this. We need to have mentoring programs, to accompany our women-led companies, not only in the beginning, but after in the development of their project. The new board of the European Innovation Council is 50-50. That was an important point for me. What I would like here to share with you is that with the European Innovation Council, first last year we decided to have at least 25% of women accessing to interviews. Attention, excellence, it's always the fundamental principle at the heart of our project. And only with this very soft measure, in 1 year, we passed from 8 to 29% of women-led funded by EIC companies. Now, for this year, we decided to have at least 40%. And we'll continue with my team in this, our efforts in this direction. But one very good announcement, very positive news that was said, we need to support in early stage our young girls and women. And that's why during this year, European Year of Youth, the European Women Innovators Prize will award 3 prizes for young innovators under 30. Until now, that was only 1. By the way, I met them 3 months after receiving the award in Dublin. Young girls, extremely inspiring. So the official opening of the new European Women Innovators Prize is today, and the applications should be submitted by 18th of August. Do you have time, ladies? Please don't hesitate. Finally, final point, what I would like to say, because Michaela, you mentioned the importance of role models and how more girls can be interested in science. Here, for me, what is important is what we are doing with the European Institute of Innovation and Technology. Not so well known, but actually we have initiatives like Girls Go Circular. We would like to offer training for up to 40,000 girls in all our member states. We started 1 year ago. We are already in 10 member states. So now, today, I will ask, please don't hesitate to be the ambassador of this initiative in your country for your network, because definitely here we have something concrete that we can offer. Networking, training, new technologies, at the same time, yes, women in leadership in these fields that are not always associated with girls. And yes, finally, I would like just to say thank you very much. Thank you for your engagement. Thank you. I think that we all today can feel your motivation. You are role models, as I said it at the beginning, and I would like to confirm that. Please don't hesitate to spread the messages of the new campaign, She You Leads. Yes, with such inspirational models like you, we can definitely affirm that our girls, our young women, it's not only our future, it's our present, but they need our support. Thank you very much.
Thank you.